Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Joining Me Today podcast featuring me, Bailey Smith, a guy who is wearing a beanie hat right now. And you're probably wondering, why are you wearing a beanie hat right now? Well, it's because I've had a little bit of a medical emergency with my ear at the moment. So that means I had to have a plaster on it, which is genuinely not a joke. That's fun. So anyway, and so welcome back to another episode of the show, episode 17 and stuff. I'm so glad. I say it every sort of time, nearly every time with every episode. I'm so glad with how far this podcast has come and stuff. I'm so happy I've been able to interview so many amazing people. And I've got another fantastic guest, as I always like to say, because I always get the best guests for this show for you guys. I've got another fantastic guest on the show. But as we usually do, song recommendation time. So my song recommendation today and stuff is going to be a song called Bad Decisions by Red Hook, a fantastic Australian indie band, indie rock band and stuff out there at the moment and stuff. Actually does similar music kind of ish to the band I'm actually going to have on, the lead singer and stuff today and stuff. So it kind of all fits in the same similar vibe and stuff. It's a fantastic, brilliant song and stuff. The song is about what you'd expect and stuff, making bad decisions, that kind of whole silly me kind of thing. But it does it in a really sort of fun, exciting way. It's got a brilliant, fast-paced section at the end. And sort of Emmy, the lead singer of Red Hook, her vocals are fantastic. Her musicianship, like rock starship, is fantastic throughout the song. And yeah, it's brilliant. You guys should definitely go check it out. But anyway, now on to the main portion of the episode. Today on the show, I have got the lead singer for a band that has toured and stuff all around the world and stuff. They've got hundreds and thousands of streams and stuff on all their songs and stuff. A fantastic band. And I've got the fantastic lead singer with me today. Joining me today on the podcast from Pet Needs is Johnny Marriott. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, mate. How you doing? Oh, excuse me. It's a bit early. I've got a bit of a cough, but I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. How you doing, Bailey?
I'm doing all good. To be honest, I'm quite tired myself. I've got to be honest and stuff. I haven't got much sleep, so I think we're both feeling it a little bit this morning.
Yeah, I'm on gig like I think 126 of 132 gigs this year at the moment. So it feels like it's I'm up in Glasgow at the moment and it's like proper like home stretching it now. Like you said, we've done 14 countries this year. We've done all over Europe and America and all over the UK. And it's our last home stretch now before we finally get about 6 weeks off. So it's kind of proper sprint finish at the moment.
Well, it's quite funny. I actually saw and stuff like, yeah. So I saw that you guys did a gig last night, and you've also got a gig tonight, ain't you? And stuff. I think you're doing like a bit of a Scottish weekend at the moment.
That's it. So we did Glasgow yesterday, which is our first ever Scottish headline gig, which was amazing. It's always so cool when you go to somewhere and headline for the first time and people come out for your full set. We've been here twice before, once with Frank Turner and once with the lottery winners. But now we're doing Glasgow and then we've done Glasgow, doing Edinburgh tonight, and then we're all the way up to Aberdeen tomorrow as well. All three cities we've done before as a support band, all three have been amazing parties. So it's going to be fun, man.
Yeah, and you guys should definitely and stuff if you can catch these guys and stuff on tour and stuff. I unfortunately probably won't be able to get this episode out and stuff before and stuff like at these Scottish shows, whatever. But definitely go check out and stuff their shows. They've got some shows next year. I know you guys are got some tour dates. I think you're not even just doing the UK. I think you guys are finishing up in France, I think, actually next year.
That's it. That's off again. First ever time headline in France. We're going back to headline in Germany again. The 3 dates over there, and headline in the Netherlands as well for the first time. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. We did Germany last year, headline shows out there, and a couple of them sold out, which was really cool. And the energy in Germany is just amazing. Was a little bit nervous about announcing a French date because we played in Paris once. Again, that's when we played with Frank Turner. But there seems to be loads of energy around that show now and loads of excitement for it, which is really cool. Driving a big van through Paris is one of the most stressful things in the world. But last time we played there, the show was great. So hopefully it'll be worth it again.
Yeah, so like I said and stuff, you guys should definitely go check that out and stuff. It's so awesome and stuff like that. You guys are actually going across sort of Europe and stuff like that, not just the UK and stuff. And like before I get into any questions and stuff, because I know I'm gonna get a bit ahead of myself. I know I'll forget to ask this. So I like to do my own song recommendation and stuff. So what song
Cool.
would you recommend that out there? That it can be you guys' own song, it can be another song, maybe from someone you've toured with, any song you'd like to recommend.
Um, I think the song that I'd recommend is a song called Political Climate by someone called Generation Feral, who is someone local to Colchester, where I live. And I went down to a local gig on one of the few weekends I was home, and I saw her play. It's a one-person outfit, but she uses like loop pedals and uses piano and uses ukulele and stuff. And I said to all my friends, like, have you heard of this person? And they were like, oh, yeah, yeah, she plays locally all the time. I was like, why has nobody told me about her? Because like she's so lyrical and kind of political and real kind of like social, quite kind of like witty with her lyrics as well. But then has got a real kind of guttural delivery. And that song especially is just, well, the whole of the EP is amazing, but that song is especially incredible. And I'm just obsessed with her music at the moment. She's got a whole EP out like on all streaming platforms. And for fans of people like K Tempest and Self Esteem and stuff like that. And yeah, that is 100% my number one recommendation and the thing that I'm listening to most at the moment for sure.
Yeah, you guys definitely go check that out. I love sort of self-esteem and stuff. She's putting out great stuff, so definitely and stuff. I'll definitely give that a listen. It sounds pretty
Nice.
awesome, and it's funny and stuff. You actually brought up about sort of coming from Colchester, and
Mm.
that for me is quite interesting because I'm actually and stuff not far from you guys. I actually live in Clacton,
Nice, cool. Yeah, yeah.
but so it's a bit local. So Colchester's like the big town nearby and stuff. And like I have to ask, sort of like, what is like the scene like in Colchester, like from your perspective?
It's cool. I think Colchester has taken a little bit of building because it's quite close to London. Like, and you often get the big touring bands will stop in London and then go and stop in Norwich. So like Colchester was often kind of a little bit missed out. Apart from Colchester Art Centre that puts on really kind of like cool, quirky stuff. But over the past kind of 5 years, the local scene has really, really grown. And then also like we've had there's there's a few amazing venues now, like with Three Wise Monkeys and with Coda, and with Colchester Art Centre, where the kind of mid-level touring bands are starting to come through Colchester as well. And what it's taking is just people that are really creative and really committed to building. And it feels like now this generation that's coming up, which is really cool. There's loads of cool bands kind of around our age, but also I got the pleasure earlier this year, about 6 months ago, of judging a like college battle of the bands in Colchester as well.
Wow.
And to see the class of the next generation of bands that are coming up is super, super, super exciting. So I think it's really thriving at the moment. It's really cool. I don't spend as much time as I'd like to in the scene because I'm away so much. Been away about 8 months this year. But I know that I'm coming back. I've already got two gigs back to back, like 2 nights in a row at Three Wise Monkeys, seeing one of my favorite Colchester bands in the world, a band called Dingus Khan. I'm seeing them just before Christmas, and then I'm home for 6 weeks as well, so I'm gonna make sure I go see stuff like Generation Feral. I know there's a band called Slugworth that are gigging, who I absolutely love, and just jumping into the music scene again, jumping into the spoken word scene again, and just kind of with Colchester, I think, as with so many towns, kind of gets a bit of a rep that like it can be judged as a bit of a squaddy town and stuff like that on kind of first look. But then I always find places like that, if you kind of just scratch beneath the surface and you can see what's going on kind of in the underbelly and in the scene, you see amazing things happening, and that 100% is happening here.
Yeah, I think you sort of see that a lot with a lot of towns and stuff. I think they'd say that, sort of on first sort of view, a lot of people kind of, view down upon them and stuff like that. Like sort of thinking, oh, sort of look at the sort of town it is, they won't have much of a music scene. It's all just like sort of just crime and run down, whatever. And it's like, no, like a
Mm.
lot of these places, if you actually like sort of do some digging and whatever, like they have their own scenes and there is just a culture in general there. A lot of people and stuff are quite artistic and stuff like that. Like I feel like a lot of people, when it comes to Colchester, when they think music, they only really think, well, we only know Blur's come from there, and that was only
Sure,
two of
yeah,
the
yeah.
members. So nobody thinks about them. And it's like, no, like have a look. There is definitely a scene here. And obviously you're yourself as a testament, and all the bands around you are a testament to that.
Yeah, oh, thank you so much. And you kind of find that kind of in America as well. I think as Britain, we have a kind of preconception of America and obviously like of American politics and stuff. But I think in America, the punk scene in America, because of the politics of America, the punk scene still feels like a real political movement. And we went out with a band called Bouncing Souls earlier this year, and every single room, like kind of, we went kind of down the East Coast, went right across Texas with them, and every single room felt like a real safe space, and there was loads of people with like different ethnicities and different genders and different sexualities and stuff, all coming into a space where they felt safe. And punk rock feels like a real political act there. And I think sometimes you can't kind of judge scenes by the kind of political stuff or the social stuff that's going on above them, but by what people are creating despite the weight coming down on top of them. And I think Colchester, like, is my favorite place I've ever lived. I've lived in quite a few places, and it's just I know so many people that are working so hard to build something, and it's really nice, and it's a real privilege to be able to travel the world and like find little spots where those kind of things are happening as well.
Yeah, and stuff. It's like amazing and stuff like that to like see and stuff, and sort of it's interesting and stuff like that. You bring up about sort of touring in America, whatever, and saying about the punk scene and stuff, and how it's still
Mm.
got that Green Day-ish kind of vibe of that kind of, sort of, this is the system, we hate the system and stuff like that. And like you said, it's not as you're seeing it a bit here. There are bands sort of out there doing it, but it's funny how sort of music in different places and stuff like that can mean sort of different things sort of in a way and stuff. So that's sort of like very interesting and stuff like that to see. And on that note and stuff, you were saying about sort of going to America, touring in America and stuff. What was sort of that whole experience like, and who have you toured with over there?
It was good. So our first ever tour was with Frank Turner, and he had set himself a challenge to do all 50 states in 50 days. And none of us had ever gone to America before. And he was in a sleeper bus. It was us and Frank Turner and the Bronx. And both of them were in sleeper buses, which are like just big kind of double-decker buses with beds in and stuff. So they could play the show and then get into the bus, go to sleep, and they could wake up at the next show. Because we were like, we didn't have the money to do that at all. Like we got asked, do we want to kind of split a sleeper bus with one of the bands? But the sleeper bus was costing like $2,000 a day. And it's like we were there for 2 months as well. So that was kind of absolutely off the cards. So we just had a little van, and we'd literally spend on average about 4 hours a night in a hotel. Like we'd get there about midnight, 1 o'clock, and then we'd have to leave about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And so it was grueling, but kind of experience wise and career wise, especially kind of building that foundation of a fan base like all across the whole of the mainland. It was absolutely valuable. And also going out with the Bronx and going out with Frank Turner, we were watching two people that are completely different, but in completely different ways, one heavier than the other, both amazing at their art and amazing at winning over a crowd and engaging a crowd. And we've been back 3 times this year. Luckily, we're doing like 3 or 4 shows a state instead of one show a state, doing 50 states in 50 days. And we went back with a band called the Bouncing Souls, who are a 90s. Well, they formed in, no, I think they formed in the 80s, actually. I think they formed in 1988, I think.
Wow.
I think that, because that was the year I was born. I think they were formed then. But they kind of like came Provenance in the 90s. And from them, that's where we were playing between like 500 to 2,000 cappers. And that was the one where I felt like we were really in the punk scene and got really accepted in the punk scene. And just learn so much about how to tour like democratically. And they're like cool, very kind of socialist, and they looked after us so well. Then went back and did some shows in California, did some acoustic shows with a couple called Micah Schnabel and Vanessa Jean Speckman, who were just true artists. And we were playing kind of little art spaces and stuff, and like playing around kind of like San Diego area and stuff. Then went home for 9 days and then flew back again with the full band, and we did the East Coast and up to Canada with Skinny Lister and Band Aid Brigade, 2 of our favorite bands, and then went to Miami. This is only about 3 weeks ago now, but it seems like a lifetime ago. And one of our friends' band's band called Flogging Molly, they run like a punk rock cruise from Miami to Mexico, and it like stops on private islands and stuff. And they have like skateboarders and loads of punk bands on there and stuff. And that was one of the craziest experiences of my whole entire life, because it's not just an open bar for the bands, but it's an open bar for every single person on that cruise. And all 5 days just seemed to blend into one, and it was crazy but really really fun. And then we flew home and we had one day off, and then we started a UK tour, and we're 3 weeks into that now.
Yeah, so you guys, that's just made me tired just thinking about all
Yeah,
that.
it's nuts, Bailey. When you think about it, it's mad.
Like, like, God, that's wow. Like, sort of, you guys have been like, sort of, yeah, you've done so many sort of tour dates and stuff like that, sort of this year and stuff. But obviously, and stuff like that, it's definitely worth doing it all, isn't it?
Sure. And like, just be really kind of honest. It's the only way to make money, to do it full time. No, and it's also like the reason that you do it, the reason that you do all the traveling, and the reason that you kind of put your body and your mind through so much is always for that half an hour or for that hour and 15 minutes on stage. It's the best feeling in the world, and for all the people that you meet and the experiences you have. But also, if you look at it on trying to make this a living, you don't really make money through record sales anymore. Or you definitely don't make money through streaming. Getting out on the road, and predominantly like selling t-shirts and selling records and stuff, if you can find a way to live cheap when you're on the road, and you can have amazing merch, then that's the way that you can kind of make money. So we have to live kind of about 8 months on the road. And it is exhausting, but then it feels like every single year you're living a whole lifetime. And you're doing stuff like, it's weird over the last month, like we went to Niagara Falls, but we went for like 20 minutes, and it's like so many things you do is like just a snapshot, and you kind of like dive into doing something, you're like, wow, that was an experience, then suddenly you're on the road to go to do something else. And so it seems like you're living a whole lifetime, like in fast forward really really quickly, like flicking through like a flick book or something. You're just seeing little snapshots. So it's amazing. But then it also makes you really appreciate living small when you get home as well, and that time where I can spend time with like my wife and my dog. And I am super excited now to be back in Colchester. I have 6 weeks off. I'll still be working but not gigging, and like I'll be working on band stuff, and like we're running into a new album. But I'm just kind of like craving going for a dog walk in the field near my house with my wife now as well. I think that's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, that's the proper rock star thing to say. I can't wait to walk my dog.
Yeah, that's it.
But all jokes are sort of aside though, like you're definitely right on the thing of, like making money and stuff like that, sort of in music, whatever. Because on my last episodes and stuff, I actually had sort of a bassist and stuff for quite a big sort of metalcore band, like sort of in
Cool.
America back in the day and stuff. Mike from I Wrestled a Bear once and stuff like that, quite sort of a notable
Mm,
band, whatever. And sort of, he even sort of like said, sort of, people would say, oh, they must have loads of money and all this and all that. And it's like, no, like we just like sort of didn't, you know what I mean? Like sort of, apparently he said he'd see online stuff like, oh, I saw that they came in with all these coaches and stuff like that. And like,
yeah.
no, we didn't. And I do think there's this sort of perception from people, even like small bands like yourself. They'll think, well, they're touring with, sort of Flogging Molly and Frank Turner. Like, surely they
Mm,
must, have a bit of change in their pocket. And it's like, that's not really the case. Even on streaming, the figure that's going around a lot is 0.003. That's the big number because that's
mm.
the divide of how sort of artists get per stream. And I think a lot of people and stuff, yeah, they don't really appreciate money and music, what it's actually like.
Yeah, I think so. But then I think also like I kind of have been reflecting a lot on over the last 2 years. We've been doing it pro for 2 years, and I've been reflecting on what the kind of meaning of life is really, to get really, really deep. Because all we know is that we're kind of like here on this planet once, and we're kind of conditioned to get that kind of like rat race mentality. Before I mean, I've always worked in jobs that I'm really proud of and I've really, really loved. I've done a lot of kind of like youth work and stuff. My background's in psychology. And I was working in a students' union when we got our record deal, and it looked like I was like putting on events there, and my aim was to potentially become like a deputy director of the SU and maybe kind of like run a students union at one point, which has been really fun. It'd be really cool. Kind of, I loved working with university students because they're like, it's at a point in their life where anything seems possible and potential is really, really massive. And it was really exciting. And then to suddenly leave that to jump into a world where like you don't get a wage in the same way or anything like that, then it's suddenly like okay, now I've made a real decision to step away from what human beings, especially in a capitalist society, even if we're doing kind of like a job that's really worthwhile. And this is still, I was talking to one of my friends who's a doctor, and he says this is even more drilled into people in the NHS, this kind of thinking, where you're always just aiming for the next step or the next promotion and stuff. And you're thinking happiness is over there. And when I get that next promotion, or when I get the bigger house or the bigger car or something like that, that's when I'm going to be happy, and that's when I'm going to be content. And then you get there. Well, one of two things happens when you get to kind of like midlife. You either don't get there, and then you feel really bad, or you do get there and realize it's not made you happy, and that's when loads of kind of midlife crises happen and things like that. And so now I've kind of and in a point where like I've been kind of reflecting on what rich means really, because like financially we're not rich, but then the things that people spend money on when they are is kind of like travel and experience and all that kind of stuff. And I think experientially I feel really rich. I feel like the fact that I can live as a creative every single day, the first thoughts that I have every single day are creative thoughts, and I'm always thinking either about the gig or the next album and stuff. And then I'm married to a wonderful person, and we've got an amazing dog, and we've got an amazing friends. And even now, I'm sitting in the summer house of a man in Glasgow, a man called Brian that I met just through music and through his own kindness. He kind of like opened his house up to us, and we had a couple of beers last night, a bit of pizza, just hanging out. And I think just being able to spend your life doing stuff where you're having all these experiences coming in, suddenly, no, you're not rich in the terms of finance, but if you can get by, you can get by. And then in terms of experience and love and stuff, then like I feel like the richest person in the world. So like, yeah, I feel really, really, really lucky, you know.
Yeah, that's like a brilliant sort of sentiment, whatever, and stuff like that. A lot of people and stuff say about that. They say like sort of, like yeah, sort of money sort of great and all. Obviously you need money to live and stuff, but
Mm.
sort of they're like, hey, I don't have loads of money, but I have this richness of, happiness and stuff like that and love
Mm-hmm.
for my family and friends. And it reminds me in some of this thing I heard one time. I think it was sort of on an interview and stuff on a podcast called the Happy Hour podcast. So I don't know if you
Oh yeah,
guys have
sure, chat mate.
from Jack, mate. Yeah, funny
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
Yeah. You actually know. Oh, it's pretty sick. So I don't just sound like I'm talking rubbish now and stuff. I believe it was an interview we had on there. I can't remember who he had it with, but I remember the guest was saying about how sort of this guy and stuff that they'd sort of come across, whatever, and so was living, I think, in like Thailand or somewhere like that, didn't really have anything and stuff on him. And he was like one of the happiest men he'd ever met. He was like, I'm so
Mm.
happy with my life. I'm full of this, full of that. And he was living in conditions that sort of a lot of people here would be scared of, because they'd be like, oh my God, like what am I going to do that I couldn't live in those sort of ways? But it's money's kind of like not everything and stuff. And sort of, yeah, people like you sort of in sort of the more Western world are kind of like representations of that.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like I still like we definitely like I think money can bring a level of comfort. So I'm still just about, I mean, we sometimes have to think of creative merch ideas and things, or create kind of fundraising ideas, but I've never struggled to pay the rent once, which is like I feel really lucky about. And if I did, then like things would get a bit um kind of things be completely different. I used to do youth work. I actually did a lot of work in Clacton as well, like in Clacton and Jaywick and like in Harwich and stuff. And I was working with people that kind of had so little that they couldn't like afford food every night and stuff like that. And I think that's a completely different level to what I'm kind of like talking about, because I think like there's definitely a certain level of money where as long as you like you can afford food and heating and like stuff like that. And I get I've got the privilege that I can afford like to have my little dog and stuff, and like our house, like me and my wife Lorna, we've got a car so we can drive about and stuff. I definitely think that there's a level of money that can bring comfort, and as long as you have enough that you're not anxious about it, then I think that definitely helps. But then I suppose that's all contextual as well, because then you say the man that lives, did you say in Thailand? Did you say that he
I
lived?
think it was somewhere like that. Yeah, it was sort of a country that
Cool.
wasn't sort of like a rich sort of like country.
Yeah, cool. And then like so like I suppose like he probably doesn't have a car or doesn't have anything like that and realizes that he doesn't need it. And I kind of I'm thinking at the moment like the old manager of our bands, we used to be managed by this hippie guy called Rusty. And like he was the nicest guy in the world. He's still one of my best friends. He was around for my birthday the other day. And he's just forever just lived life completely by his own rules. And he like just lives on a piece of land near Wheelie actually, so kind of like near where you live. And he used to have an RV on there, but now he's kind of just built his own house on there, and it's all kind of like eco powered and stuff. And he like does loads of different jobs. Like he does things where he chops down trees, so he does tree felling, but then with the like wood, like he like makes kind of like sculptures out of the wood, and he'll like sell them on the side of the road and stuff. And he'll do a bit of youth work and everything. But he's always completely lived by his own rules, and he's thought like, instead of why do I need this massive house and the big car and stuff? Why can't I just build my house and then just have this massive piece of land? And I think like he's just such an inspiration for someone that decides to reject the social norms and then just really go for what makes someone happy as a human being and what makes someone content as a human being, which I think is really cool. And I kind of see that just going around like yeah, like especially meeting people in bands that have been doing it for years and years now. Like a lot of the bands that we tour with, bands like Flogging Molly, actually. The guy really got on with the bassist Nathan, and he just embraces art and embraces music and stuff. He took my number at the end and he was like, "We need to keep in contact because you need to let me know how you write songs and stuff." And he was just kind of like really kind of wanted to dive into the process. And I think being able to have such in even like kind of like after playing for 20 years 25 years or something, still been inspired by other people's art is amazing. I think yeah, there's so many different ways that people can live lives, and I think that we're so conditioned into one particular way that we kind of almost feel that you're a failure when you're not doing that, and you're so kind of like comparing yourselves to each other all the time. But at the moment, I mean, you could ask me in a month's time, and I could feel completely different. My mental health kind of like goes up and down with this kind of lifestyle. But at the moment, I feel really, really lucky, man.
Oh yeah, and stuff. Like I can sort of definitely relate to that in terms of sometimes even when you're on a high, you know what mental health can be like sometimes and
Hmm.
stuff. But you know what I mean, it helps you and stuff like that. Like you said, just stuff when you have like all this sort of great things about you and stuff like if you live life in the way that you want to live it, that's comfortable for you, that can definitely help. Whether it is just, making wooden sculptures and selling them on the side of the road or touring the world sort of in it, with different bands and all that. It's all kind of what makes you happy. But yeah, speaking
Yeah.
of funny enough, you were saying about songwriting and stuff like that. You guys have just released a single recently, Separation Anxiety, and some a fantastic song from your new album, Intermittent, Fast Living. Stuff's coming out next year and stuff. What's the whole story behind the song?
So that song was it kind of came really, really quick. I'd been home for only about 2 weeks. And the whole kind of song is like every single morning, my wife Lorna, not as much anymore. She's starting to learn to have lions now. But every single morning she was getting up about 5:30 and just going downstairs, and she gets like these really super detailed paint by numbers. Like she gets them kind of shipped in from Germany. And they look so like she'll do like the Mona Lisa and stuff like that, and it will take her like 2 weeks to do it. And they're like proper works of art when she finishes them. But every single morning she's just up doing them. And I just had the kind of like lyric, "I miss you when you go downstairs to do your paint by numbers." And then I wanted to kind of stretch that out into like how much I kind of missed her. But then I didn't want to write like she is the like she's like I mean she's not like Essex girl, but she's like proper like she's not one to be any really soppy or anything like that. So I kind of wanted to write a song like it was kind of a love song, but then a little bit kind of like twisted as well. Like and like so I kind of play a character in it where it almost kind of like it, the guy in the song, who's kind of based on me, and the other person is based on her. But the guy in the song's like kind of really desperately trying to prove his love to his partner to the point that he gets into competition with their own dog and stuff like that. And it's like, I love you even more than our dog does and stuff. And it's kind of like so it's kind of a bit tongue in cheek, but like really kind of yeah, just really fun, I think. But the sentiment of the chorus kind of if separation anxiety is the price to pay for me loving you and you loving me, I'll take it. We were together for over 10 years before like I started touring properly. And we never spent more than a week apart. And then when I had to go for 2 months to America for the first time, I remember her just dropping me off at Heathrow. It was like a film because there's like this brass band playing in the background and like genuinely, which they should never do. They should never have like kind of sad brass band music playing as people dropping people off at the airport. But we just kind of like held each other and it like and both just like sobbed genuine and it felt like that proper felt like a real loss and that separation anxiety was mad and feeling like I'm more used to it now. She's more used to it now and actually getting a dog really helped as well. So she's got someone to look after her and for her to look after. But that real kind of feeling of loss was so big. And so the whole thing is about the fact that like even though that feeling is so sad when we are apart, like it just means that it's so worth it for when we're together. And that's kind of where the title of the album came from as well, Intermittent Fast Living, where I'm either living at a million miles an hour on tour all the time, going out in front of like hundreds or thousands of people like every night and like having those little kind of flip book snapshots of life, or I'm suddenly on my sofa with a glass of wine with my partner Lorna next to me, our dog on our lap, like just watching Taskmaster, you know.
That's brilliant and stuff like that. What was sort of her reaction and stuff when she first listened to the song?
Kind of like everything that Lorna says and does, she's not one to go, it's brilliant like that. She was just like, oh yeah, that's good. And then she said, her next thing was like, do you think that you should say woof woof in it? Because like
that part is so good, by the
fun.
way. I'm so happy that was added. It's people go, oh, it's a bit silly. No, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I thought it was brilliant when I heard it.
I only did it because like one of my main aims on touring in life and recording and stuff is to make our drummer Jack just laugh. And like I was just delivering the line in the vocal booth and I knew that he was in the control room. And I just said it right at the end, like just kind of like flippantly. It wasn't in the lyrics or anything. We'd never done it in practice. And it did make him laugh, which was cool. And then I went through and all the boys were like, you know, we're keeping that in, right? And I was like, what? No, what? And now it's got to the point where we're playing it live and I don't really sing it live and it's not written in the lyrics or anything. But like the whole of the audience sing it back now. So it's cool. And I've just seen today, like we've got a big Colchester gig coming up and people have made t-shirts with that line on and stuff. But it's just like I was like, oh my god, like we've got like a catchphrase that's woof woof and we're in a band called Pet Needs. Like it's like, oh my god. But it is fun. I do like it. I'm glad it stayed in.
Oh yeah, and stuff, and you know, it is a really fantastic song, even just outside of
Thank
that
you.
line. You might not like it, but I think it works really well and stuff.
Yeah, I do, yeah, it's fun.
It's a really great song and stuff. You guys should definitely go check that one out as well and stuff. I'm recommending all different songs today and stuff. Check out and stuff. You know what I mean? You know, Separation Anxiety. It's a great song and stuff. And you guys should definitely go check out the album and stuff like that. It's coming out February 16th next year. Intermittent Fast Living and stuff. I know it's going to be amazing and stuff. It's a Pet Needs album. You know what I mean? What do you expect? Of course, it's going to be amazing. speaking of the new album and stuff like that, I've got to talk about and stuff your Bottom of the Pops campaign and stuff that you announced and stuff. You're sort of on a campaign, you and the band are on a campaign to try and finally get into the UK sort of top 40 and stuff like that. You got to tell me what's all that about.
Yeah, 100%. Well, it feels that at the moment, weirdly, because like every other thing is against small bands at the moment in the music industry. But we're in this weird little kind of space in time where how people consume music has changed so much that the official charts company have kind of lost a little bit of control over it with kind of like streams and stuff. Like you'll find like ABBA Gold and Queen's Greatest Hits and stuff have been in the top 40 ever since like streams started counting and things like that. And because people are like buying less music as well, we're suddenly at this kind of little kind of purple patch where small bands, if they can mobilize enough people to like buy more than one copy of an album, suddenly if you've got a group of a few thousand people that want to do it, people can small bands can infiltrate like the mainstream charts, which in one way at the start I was thinking is this really kind of in line with what I want to do? Because all the bands, or the majority of the bands that I listen to, never really existed in the charts and it wasn't really important to them. But then on the other hand, I was like, a group of people coming together collectively to like infiltrate the mainstream, but also annoy all the people like at the like who are in the big record labels or in the magazines that aren't currently writing about these bands, or like in the radio stations that will refuse to play these bands. It feels pretty kind of like punk rock, like we're just infiltrating like from the bottom up. And we were inspired by our friends the Lottery Winners who did this. They're a band that we were touring with at the time, and they ended up getting a number one record just through being super creative and mobilizing the right people. And also actually it did really well for them because now they're kind of playing thousands of person shows, like they were doing like Rock City Nottingham. They're doing January 3,500 people, Manchester Apollo, like sold out and stuff. Like they're absolutely smashing it, which is amazing. But we wanted to do something that was really fun, but also something where we could encourage people to buy multiple versions of the album. But we wanted each multiple version to kind of relate to each other and have a like piece of value, like a piece of value is a single piece, but then collective value is a collective piece as well. So we've released our official version of the album, and then we've also released a Bottom of the Pops campaign, which is hopefully going to get us into the at least into the bottom of the charts. And what we've done is our graphic designer, Vanessa, who is sitting next to me right now, by the way, being really quiet. She took all the Top of the Pops logos. There she is. Took all the Top of the Pops logos throughout history, and adapted them so that they said Bottom of the Pops, that goes all the way from 1964 all the way up to 2013 when Top of the Pops ended. And there's 12 of them, which means if you get all 12, they're numbered kind of like 1 out of 12, 2 out of 12 as well. Then you can have the history of Top of the Pops that you can frame as one piece of art for £50 for 12 of them. But also for like, it means that people can join the campaign and they can have something of real value, but also it counts as 12 individual sales as well. So suddenly if we get like 1,000 people to buy 12, suddenly we've sold 12,000 copies instead of 1,000 copies, which is really cool. It's a risk, it's a push risk, and I don't know how it's going to do at the moment. At the moment we've looked at the first sales, and on the first day we did like really, really strong, but then we've got to be mindful that you'll have that kind of peak of excitement right at the start. And I think we've been speaking to the Lottery Winners management about it as well. And it looks like there'll be a peak right at the start. Then it'll kind of tail off a bit. And then it'll start really, really ramping up as you get like 2 weeks before and stuff. So our challenge now is to kind of get as many people on board and as many people inspired to get on board with this campaign. And I think this is the last year, or next year is the last year that they'll ever be able to do this as well, because there are talks kind of behind the scenes, and obviously people in control don't like people who usually have less power being able to disrupt things that they're usually in control of. So it feels like the rules are going to change very, very quickly. And when there is a band that a band that aren't super in the mainstream at the start that do something like this, there's always kind of an article in a newspaper afterwards saying, "Oh, the chart's broken" and all this kind of stuff. And to be honest, if we break the charts, that's like I'd still see that as a success because I just want to be a little part of history, you know. And I think this is our only chance to do it, and in the most kind of fun and punk rock way.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant and stuff. And it is funny you bring up about the whole kind of thing of, sort of sales and how they contribute to the charts and stuff, because you're definitely right. Like we're kind of in a weird space now where I think they like obviously at first it was set up to be, just sales of actual CDs and obviously
Mm,
vinyls and stuff when they were more the only sort of, way of like physical media in terms of music. But then obviously streaming sort of come about, and especially in the past decade and stuff. But now we're getting physical media's coming back up again. So it's
mm.
not just who's the best at streaming. It's like you say, it's about who's got the special edition or who's got the limited disc or who's, doing an event where like yourself in a campaign, who's doing this and that. And it's
That's
definitely
it.
massively affecting the charts. But for me, I think it's amazing that we're seeing smaller bands like yourself, going for it, actually getting in the charts, because it helps like someone like me, for instance, if I'm telling other people I'm listening to so and so band and I listen to a lot of obscure stuff. So it's
Mm.
helpful for me to go, yeah, they even got a UK number two, and they go, oh,
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
and it legitimizes it, doesn't it?
Mm. Yeah, definitely. And it kind of it will like this isn't really the reason we're doing it, but I think like having like if you say like top 40 charting band or something, then it could help with kind of like festival applications or kind of like my magazines might take a little bit more of an interest and stuff, or like Spotify playlist streams and everything. But to be honest, like I really like where our career is at the moment anyway. Like I like the fact that things are building organically. And I don't really want to be one of those bands that's on the front cover of like Kerrang or something like that for 2 minutes and then everyone forgets about them in 2 years' time. I really like the fact that things are kind of, it feels like things, both sides of the pond for us are building really organically, and we're kind of taking people on that aren't just like casual kind of consumers of what we do, but people are like really passionately advocating for what we do, and are really, really part of the story and really buying into it. So we're not just another one of the kind of fad bands that people are like, oh, they're pretty cool. It's like people are really kind of like passionately into what we do, which is cool. So I think this chart kind of run for us is genuinely just to disrupt. I think it's going to be really cool. That's what I want to do. I want to disrupt, and I think like it's the we've done things before, like when we played 2000 Trees Festival, and we were playing a 3,500 person tent. But the slot that they gave us, and it ended up being really good, but we were given midday on the Sunday, which is the last day of the festival, so like ultimate hangover slot. And when we saw our slot, we're like, oh God, how are we going to do this? And we started a massive campaign for to fill that tent basically. And like we had people that were walking around as like homemade human billboards with like our set times like written on them, and people had written ours like set times on like little clothes pegs, and we're like pegging them on people and stuff. And people were putting flyers everywhere and putting like flags all over the campsite. And we ended up at midday, like the tent was over capacity, so there was people like spilling
Wow.
out of the tent, and it was like the busiest that tent had ever been at that time. It usually only gets that busy like 7 o'clock at night or something like that. So we've got the best fans in the world that do mobilize and do organize and do make things like this happen. So fingers crossed. We it's our biggest challenge yet, but I think we've got the right people to do it. And fingers crossed, like in a few months' time, we might have a top 40 album.
If you was to give somebody a piece of advice, what would be like the most important piece of advice you would like give them?
Um, I think it's genuinely it sounds pretty naff. But I think just in your life, just do what you love. Cut out the time, like cut out the things that you do that don't bring you joy, and measure your life by impact. And this is like impact on other people, but also impact on yourself as well. So make sure that you look after yourself, that you can look after other people. And when you're looking back on like your week, your day, or anything like that, just think, what kind of impact have I had on this world, like this week or this day or whatever. But also always hold yourself in the same regard as you hold other people. So if your day has been, I've had a bath and I've listened to some music and I've done a jigsaw, then count your day by the impact that you've had on yourself, because you need to look after yourself to look after other people.
Yeah, and that's a brilliant sentiment, one I 100% support and stuff. And yeah, and stuff. This has been a fantastic interview and stuff with yourself and stuff like that. I'll say it again and stuff. Go check these guys out and stuff. They're doing brilliant stuff. If you can go see them sort of live on tour, you definitely should. They've got a spring tour and stuff next year and stuff. They've got a date and stuff in February and stuff in Nottingham and stuff. And then the tour's continuing in April and stuff, like April 16th in Stockton-on-Tees. And then it's ending all the way. We've already kind of mentioned it, ending in Paris in France and stuff.
Yeah,
You
man.
might see the van driving about, you never know. But yeah, any sort of final words you'd like to say, anything else you'd like to shout out personally yourself?
I'd just like to say actually, I've been talking about the bottom of the pops campaign and stuff, but I was going to say the album Intermittent Fast Living is like, whether it gets in the charts or not as well, it's my favorite album that we've ever done in my whole entire life. Like, I'm so proud of it, and it feels like the work that we've always wanted to create. And also, if you can't afford to buy it, like if you could just find any way to listen to it, I just wanted to get it out to as many people as possible and as many ears as possible as well. I think a lot of this campaign is to do with kind of people physically buying the records. I know that not everybody can afford to do it, and I think that's one good thing about kind of YouTube music and stuff, is that if you can buy it and you can help the campaign, that's amazing. If not, just come February 16th, please listen to the album, because it's something that we're really super proud of. And well, I don't want finances to be a barrier to people enjoying it, so just everyone just get it in your ears when it comes out, because I've never been more proud of a piece of work.
Yeah, and stuff, I definitely support that and stuff. I definitely go check it out February 16th and stuff. I know it's going to be sort of awesome. Stream Separation Anxiety, fantastic song from that album and stuff. And yeah, this has been a fantastic episode. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. See you guys next time. Peace out.
Cheers, Bailey.